Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Eric's UK here. Let's just turn the screen off now. With another games I have played. I believe this one is number 36. Bloody hell. And today I'm going to talk about a game called Cyberpunk 2020. I never really got the fascination with the whole cyberpunk thing. Probably not my generation, but I did enjoy this particular game. The first I knew of it, I'd gone to a local game store back in, must have been about 1992, with my friend Muppet, and we were looking through the various books and things. And at the time, I was always into collecting new RPGs. And I spotted this Cyberpunk 2020, I want to say second edition, on the shelf. And we looked through it, and Muppet was a fan of the William Gibson novels, which are very, very much the basis for a lot of the cyberpunk genre, I think. Pardon me. And I'm one of those people, if I'm going to get into a game, I don't just buy the rule book and read it and go, yeah, I want to buy everything. And I remember standing in this store, and there was about 4 or 5 what they call Chrome books, which were the equipment guides. And it's like, oh, we'll have all these. And he had to actually sort of like go, no, don't. Just buy the rule book and one of them if you have to. And, you know, let's try it first. So that's what we did. Some of the guys were quite cool with it. We had one or two who were like, don't like big gun games, as they used to say, but they gave it a wibble. And yeah, it probably did all right for a year or so. I did end up buying all those books. Not too long later, all the Chromebooks, the various, I don't have classes per se, but sort of like the career class / guides, a guide to the UK and Europe, because the default is obviously a cyberpunk dark future, a fictional city called Night City, which I think was on the west coast of California, something like that. But there was a book that let you play or gave you details of how Europe and the UK worked, and we decided to basically play with I think it was Cambridge as our basis, because it was the nearest like big city to us. And we sort of like had the idea that East Anglia was kind of this blasted desert wasteland now, rather than a load of fens and fields. And you know, it was all really, really cool. We ran like a campaign or two, I think. I did have one. There was a nice big box set called Home of the Brave, Land of the Free. There was a book. One was one title, the campaign was the other. And we played that as well, and that was really cool. But I think after that, Vampire is what sort of grabbed us a bit more, and the game kind of fell to the wayside. I did end up running Cyberpunk 2020 again for some other friends in the mid-90s. Somewhere around about 97, maybe 98, and I ran that very campaign again, and had the game's gone and done now, so I don't imagine this is too much of a spoiler alert, but the campaign itself involves the team, I can't actually remember what they called themselves, but the team being paid to basically escort a VIP. I want to say she was like a singer or a musician or something like that, but you had to basically get her across country from, you know, wherever it was, New York, whatever, to Night City. And so you sort of went through all different parts of the states, see how, you know, things had gone pear-shaped in that part of the country, and, you know, try and stop a rival corporation from and their agents from basically snatching her back off of you. Well, one of the players in question came to me, he goes, well, could I work for the other company and be like a, um, a mole in the team? And it worked phenomenally well. You know, he didn't take the mick with it. He didn't try and screw the game over or everyone else, but he would drop notes to the bad guys where they were going and things like that, and blah, blah, blah. And we eventually ended up with a really cool scene where, right as they got towards Night City, there was an ambush, and he showed his real colours, and there was a nice big firefight, and obviously he was gunned down along with the rest of them, and the rest of the party managed to get her to her destination. And he enjoyed it, and everybody else enjoyed it. I don't think I've ever played. I think we were going to run a campaign for it at the old game store we had probably about 14 years ago, but he never got off the ground. I think there was like a session, maybe two. I don't remember much of the system. That's kind of the thing. I remember, like most of these cyberpunk sort of games, you had your kind of cybered up street warrior sort of type. You had your decker who could plug into the computer system and sort of like you ran the Matrix almost. And you had the guy that could plug himself into vehicles and machines, and he could fly them remotely through, you know, his cybernetic implants and so on. And I remember one of the things that I found quite interesting about it, there was an interesting mechanic in that the more metal you add to your body, the more cybernetic implants, the less human you become. You know, so when you lose an arm to have a metal one, you're kind of giving up part of yourself, and you can slowly go mad. And there was these interesting things in one of the Chromebooks where you had complete body conversion. So it's basically all that was left of you, I think, was like your brain inside the head of this thing. All your other organs have been donated or what have you, or thrown into a skip somewhere, depending how you view your dark cyberpunk, I suppose. And they could be things just like a full combat thing for a military sort of style cyborg, or you could be a firefighter type or a police type, you know, think RoboCop. The problem was the humanity sort of cost for these things was vast, and generally you could do this for a while, but then you would go mad and you'd have to be hunted down. And we actually did have a villain like that towards the end of our original campaign. It's true what one of my friends said, well, this is a big gun game. Essentially, yeah, it's an action movie game, but I don't think that was ever a bad thing. I mean, we were used to playing Dungeons and Dragons, Call of Cthulhu and things like that at the time, which I wouldn't say are action movie type games. Even, you know, if you look at sort of like fantasy films, there's still a certain, despite the fantasy, sort of grounded sort of realism to it. Whereas I do think games like Cyberpunk, Shadowrun, and similar are very much the Expendables. You know, it's slightly over the top. Well, as I say, action movie styly, but that never bothered me too much, and it doesn't really bother me too much now. It was a game that we enjoyed at the time. It kind of scratched an itch before we moved on to other things. I think they did do like a follow-up game, maybe not follow-up game, but something like Cyber Generation or something like that. The idea that so many years after 2020, a sort of cyber virus had wiped out a load of the adult population, and you were playing more kids and teenagers, where this cyber virus was running through you, and kind of a very different, different cyberpunk sort of feel. I think I had that book, but I never actually ran it. I don't think it ever grabbed me in the same fashion. And I believe that Cyberpunk was redone in the last couple of years. Obviously, the year 2020 has come and gone, and we didn't have this. Well, I would say we haven't had a dystopian future, but 2020 would probably prove me wrong. So I think it's kind of moved the timeline. It's a reboot, and it moves the timeline on maybe another 20 odd years, something like that. I don't know whether the system's the same. So if you've played it, I'd be interested to know if it's the same system, just with a bit of a tweak. I've only ever played a couple of Cyberpunk style games. I think this one, Shadowrun, and probably one other, if I could think of the name of it. And this was probably one of my favourites at the time. I had a big yen appropriately for Shadowrun, so I might do that as my next games I've played video. So yeah, that's kind of just my thoughts. It was a game, as I say, that touched an itch at the time. It probably taught me a few things, as I'd only been kind of a fantasy D&D and Call of Cthulhu type player and GM. It probably taught me a little bit more about how to run a game than maybe other games previously had done so. But there you go, good game. If you haven't played it, I recommend checking it out. If you have played it, what are your thoughts? Was it something you liked, something you didn't? Do you agree or disagree with anything that I said? And what were your games like in that? I'd be very interested to hear your scenarios and campaigns. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Do me a favour, give it a thumbs up if you can see that, and hit that subscribe button and ring that little bell, as it will help the channel. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next vid. Until next time, take care, guys. Good gaming.